Hey YouTube family. Um, I wanted to come on here with a story time. Today is July 17th and tomorrow will be my firstborn daughter. Her birthday is tomorrow, July 18th, and she would have been 17 years old. I have never told my story or her story on social media or anywhere else. Only my near family and friends know. People that are close to me know what happened. And she died when she was 4 months old. And actually, I had came across Judea Arthur, her name is, here on YouTube. I came across her video one day, and she shared her story about losing her daughter to SIDS, and it really touched me. And so I would like to share my daughter's. I lost my daughter November 23rd of 2006. She was born July 18th, 2006, which would have made her 4 months old. And this is her. So that year in 2006, that was Thanksgiving morning. And I was a teen mom. I was 16 years old when my daughter had passed. And here it goes. This is also my first time sharing a story, so if things are all over the place or in and out of order, I'm sorry. The morning of November 23rd, I will never forget till this day. It's something that never leaves your memory, and that has tremendously changed my life. And not only mine, but my family's as well. The ones who were there with me. And so that morning, we, it was Thanksgiving. I believe it was about 8:30, 9-ish in the morning. So, it's Thanksgiving. Everybody's, trying to, get up and get ready. I just remember that morning in my room, me and my daughter, obviously, we slept in the room. I took care of my daughter. I lived with my father at the time. My mother had already passed. A couple months before that, she had passed away. And so it was just, I was living with my father and my stepmother and my half siblings, and a couple of my cousins were there. So I just remember I was asleep, and next to me was my daughter, who I thought was also asleep. My father walks in the room, and I wake up to him And I just remember hearing his voice. He was like, Ashley. And it was a certain way that my dad said my name to where I knew, like, I knew the tone of my dad's voice and what he sounded like. The sound of his voice, it was worried. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble, like, because it's been so long, and so I'm just gonna tell it the best way that I can. My father comes in, and you know, I'm waking up to the sound of his voice, and he's like, Ashley, is the baby okay? And I said, yeah, Dad, she's fine. And then I'm just laying there, you know, I'm like going back to sleep, and then he's like, Ashley, are you sure? I was like, what do you mean? Like, you know, I'm just laying there. But I can tell from the sound of his voice, he's like, it's his, like, you know, you know your parents' voice is whenever they say your name. And I could just hear his voice, like, gradually getting, like, not louder, but, like, more, I guess, frantic, if you want to say that. And, you know, we were all real close. So I was laying this way, and my daughter was here in her little bassinet beside me, right? And my dad, I heard him again, Ashley, the way he would say my name. And he was like, are you sure nothing's wrong with the baby? I said, I don't know, Dad, pick her up. I was like, pick her up, Dad. And by the time I was able to turn to look at them, I just seen my daughter's head fall. He had her this way, and so they're facing like this way towards me. And I just hear my father say, he had her this way, and he was just like, no, no. And my dad's not, man, God bless my dad. My dad is he's a very religious man. He believes in the Lord Jesus Christ, and just the sound of him, like, it was just like this wailing, like, no, no. And obviously at that time, you know, I could tell that my daughter's color was off, and my dad is not somebody to panic. My dad always tells me, Ashley, never panic. If you're ever in a situation, don't panic, or bad things will happen. He always tells me. So in that time, I had to not remind him, but I think we both knew at that time that my daughter was gone. We just knew. But, and all in this time, right? I'm thinking, like, any moment I'm fixing to wake up from. Any moment now, I'm gonna wake up, and this is gonna be over. This is not gonna be my reality. So I'm like, Dad, we need to take her to the other room, and we need to start performing CPR, and we need to call 911. And my dad did just that. We take her to the room immediately, CPR. I'm not trained in CPR, and neither is my father, but in this, you know basically what to do. Tilt the head. It's different in babies and in older people. I know that for sure. So we called 911, and where we lived, this is a small town, very small town, very remote, very rural area. And there was only a volunteer fire department. The nearest hospital to us was either one city this way from us and one that way. About the same amount of time, maybe like 2 minutes. So it was like 20 minutes to the nearest hospital, 20 to 25 minutes. And then the other way is like 30 minutes. That's how like far we were. So the volunteer fire department gets there, and they're working on her as best as they can, and we're waiting for the ambulance to show up. There's so much going on, and you know, there was other family members of mine in the home. My stepmom, a couple of my cousins that were there with me, you know, like for the summer. They would always come, and they were always with, you know, we always had like a bunch of people around. My stepmom and my stepsisters, which were all very close. And everyone's there, and then, you know, of course it's a small town, so you see neighbors outside and stuff. And finally the ambulance gets there, and I did not ride with her to the hospital. I don't believe. We followed them. And I mean, and we live in Texas, so of course we get to the hospital, and they're working on my daughter. And I mean, everybody around me is just like, they're like, oh my God, like a baby. Like they had never, like they had not seen that. And if they, babies passing away, they're not very old. I'm the only person that I know who has lost like a child at that small. Not that it matters or anything, but like, again, I'm just sharing my story with you. And everybody is just like, you can just look at people and they're like, oh my God, like. And they work on my daughter for over an hour, and I'm there. I'm holding her hand. And at this point, I'm just really in shock. Of course, you know, I had been crying. But then I knew I had to stop crying. I felt like I needed to, like, keep some sort of, like, composure, I guess. And really and truly, I didn't know how to feel. Like I had just lost my mother a couple months before, but it was nothing like this. This was so different for me. And they worked for my daughter for over an hour, and at that time, they were like, they had gave her more medication than what they did the normal. And they said that we keep trying. It's been over 45 minutes. We've lost her. I've lost her. We've lost her. Well, they take my daughter to another room, and they are, you know, they take her to another room so that way you can go visit, say your goodbye one last time. So we do that. And it's been, let's see, 17 years, 17 years. Why did I be 17 years old? So 17 years. And of course, this is the state of Texas, okay? Stuff like that, Texas does not mess around with. I don't know who will watch this video, but in the state of Texas, they do not play with things like that, okay? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's an accident, if you know, of course, if it's on purpose, you know, like, you're going to be investigated. So, and here in Texas, it's we have what they call Texas Rangers. You know, no, CPS didn't come talk to me, nothing like that. They had a Texas Ranger come to talk to me. After I visited with my child, I was sat in another area. And here comes the Texas Ranger. And I mean, this bitch was not playing with me. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to cuss, but this is who I am. This is how I'm gonna tell my story. So she comes in there, cowboy hat on, big belt buckle, and like this. She's like, "What was on? What time? Like she wanted exact times for everything, which now I do understand, but at the time, I was like, because I was like, I don't know the like exact time. I'm not sitting there looking like at it, you know. And that time, phones were not as big as they were now. Like, I probably had like a Razor phone, but you're not. I'm 60, you know, like at that time, like my phone's not always on. So anyway, she's like drilling me with these questions. You know, my father's sitting there, and I'm looking at my dad, because my dad's with me, obviously. I'm not an adult. And my dad was irritated too, and he was like, you know, like, we don't know the exact time. We're like trying to give it to her as best as we can, and she's like coming across rude. And once me and my dad, I said, look, the way you're talking to me, I just lost my daughter. And then she backed off. She was like, we just want to know, you know, blah, blah, because they have to do an investigation. It doesn't matter. I think that year, or a couple years, like 2 years before that happened, which was 2006 again, they had passed the law in Texas. It didn't matter if it was accidental, if it was intentional. You're gonna get an autopsy. Okay, everyone. It doesn't matter. You know, to see what happened. And the only thing that my daughter had was like a little cold. I took her to the doctor. My daughter was, you know, she was good on all her shots. You know, so I didn't understand what happened. And you know, this ranger lady, Texas Ranger, she was like coming at me with these questions, and I'm like, look, I just lost my daughter. Like, I'm fixing to, like, I didn't say it, but in my head, I'm like, I'm fixing to flip the fuck out on you. But I knew, like you don't fuck with the Texas Rangers, okay? These people are not they're not gonna play with you. So, but once I made it like clear to her that, hey, like, take it easy, and she asked me her questions, and that was it. We finished with the questions, and I don't know. The reason why I'm like pausing through is because I know people are gonna have their opinions about me, and like my age, and you know what I'm gonna get into. I'm sure you guys are gonna have a lot of opinions about that. I'm sure there's gonna get a lot of hate. But this is my story, our story. I'm gonna say me and my daughter and I's story. You were not there. You do not know what happened. I do. I live with this shit. I live with this every single day of my life. Okay. So it doesn't matter what you say, because I know. but I hate that it's like a typical I'm a teen mom, and like, oh god, like another teen mom story, you know, whatever. At the time, let's get to the father, okay? I'm sure you guys are gonna want to know about him. He was 23 years old, and he was in prison. Let's get to it, okay? So he was in prison for some things that he had done, and please do not jump to conclusions, okay? He wasn't in there for like, like raping somebody or raping somebody. I'm limited to what I can say on YouTube, but just it was for some other things. You don't have to know about that. We'll cut that out. I'm at a standstill. After they asked me the questions, the Texas Ranger was asking her questions, I now have to tell the father of my child that our daughter has passed away. And yes, at the time, when my daughter was, when we had to go tell her father, I had to go tell him. He was in prison. He was incarcerated. Don't do that. Do not judge me. Okay? Listen. My dad's like, now his parents, so my daughter's grandparents, they're obviously there. It's their granddaughter, and they're like, we have to go tell John what happened. And at the time, he was in Texarkana, which is Texas and Arkansas state line. So that's some ways away from me. Okay, that's like, I don't know, it was like a 6-7 hour drive, maybe 8-hour drive. No, okay, we had to get a hotel, and we weren't able to do it until like the next day. Like, I think I had got out of there like 3 o'clock. And mind you, this is Thanksgiving Day. And I'm like, Dad, I do not want to ride with these folks in a car 8 hours and go do this. Like, I'm like, I just want my dad, and I just want my dad. I'm like, Dad, I need my dad. My dad's my everything. And when you're a daddy's girl, whatever, that being around your dad just gives you this feeling of being safe. You're safe when you're with your dad. Like, being around my dad didn't make me feel like things were okay, but just his presence, just him there, I knew that I was all right. I was okay. So he's like, you have to go tell. He's like, Ashley, you have to go tell John what happened to your daughter. And I'm like, okay, I'm. When you have a kid at that age, when you have a child, when I was 16, and when you have a child that age, like you're not an adult, but you're doing very adult things, like, now you have to go, I have to go do this. Like, this is my reality. So I get in the car and we go. I get a few things. I come out, and this whole car ride, I remember them just like, And no shit, they're very sweet about everything. Like uh, man, they did everything. They were great. You know, they were very sweet to me. They were, because my daughter's father, his grandparents, they were, he was a preacher of a church where I lived, and he was a very godly man, and you know, whatever. So I go with them, and they're doing what they can. They're like, you know, everything's gonna be okay, and um it's okay, because like they would just look back at me and they're like, I'm crying. I'm telling you, I mean, I'm crying like the whole 7 hours we're riding up there. And I'm just like, oh my fucking God. Like, why is this happening to me? I just lost my daughter. And man, she was just everything to me. I lost my mom, you know, and that was really, really tough. But it wasn't to compare it. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my mom, and I wish she was here. But, you know, you always hear people say, like, you want your children to bury you. You know, everyone says that. Everybody. And you're like, losing a child is the worst thing that happened to me, but it's the worst thing that the worst death I know that I will ever experience in my life. Like, I lost my child, my firstborn. Like, I have, obviously I have other children now. I have 3 other children who are amazing to me. But no other children replaced the child that you lost. So, you know, we get to the prison, and I tell the father of my child, you know, what happened. We come back. And we start to plan the funeral. So we go to the same funeral home that where we cremated my mother. We had the funeral there. And these people, they're like, we just seen you in here. Like, it's not funny, but I mean, you have to understand that this has been some time. I've healed. It is still very hurtful, but I'm just like, when I'm laughing, I'm not like laughing at this situation. I'm just like, really like, wow, this really happened. Okay, just so you know, because you guys don't know who I am, and I don't ever want to come off like, oh my God, this girl's like joking around, like trying to tell a motherfucking story time on fucking YouTube. Anyway, this is my story. You just listen. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to cut that out too. That was dumb. So we're planning a funeral, and we go to the same funeral home, and they're like, oh my gosh, you know, they remember me and my dad, obviously. And I don't want to just, you know, talk about how I felt. I want to mention, you know, my father who was there, and my stepmom. who I call Tintin. Hey Tintin. My cousin Shelby, her brother Sam, my other cousin, and my 3 other cousins that were there. Angela, Jasmine, and Brianna. They were also there at the time, which they were all very close to my daughter as well. And so it's very important for me that I at least add them and include them in this in our story. So we had the funeral and they're like, oh my God, like you guys were just here. Cause we dealt with my mother there, and they remembered us and they were like, they felt horrible. So they did so much for us. And man, shout out to them. They let me pick any casket that I wanted. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful casket, and that was free of charge. In which, if you ever had to plan a funeral or whatever, this stuff is not cheap. It is expensive. It is not cheap at all. And for them to do that, they felt terrible for me and my family, and I'm thankful that they helped us out. Not only them, we'll get to that. But we have her funeral and that goes by, and of course they do an autopsy of my daughter, and we're waiting for the results, and I'm just like, you're like, what, did I do something wrong? Things like that. And if you I have to shout out to Judea Arthur here on YouTube, because her story is the first story that I had heard that involving infant loss. I just happened to stumble upon that video, and I don't know, I think I stumbled upon her channel a year ago on her first video. And her listening to her story and how she lost her daughter, it just really, it gave me the confidence. I don't know, I wouldn't say confidence, I don't want to say that. Just, it kind of, I guess, inspired me to it inspired me to tell the story. And so we get the autopsy results in, and on there, the cause of her death said undetermined. Undetermined, meaning they do not know why my daughter suddenly just died. She died at 4 months old. And that's something that will live with me forever. I think of my daughter, her name was Alize. Alize Marie Jones. I think of her every day. Not a day goes by. Even after all this time, she was 4 months old when I lost her. Today is July 17th. Tomorrow's July 18th, which is her birthday, and she would have been 17 years old tomorrow. I probably won't post this until tomorrow, so happy birthday to her, I want to say. Um, knowing that you don't know, it's just like, I mean, I think they call it what? SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. There was no explanation. Okay. Now I'm at peace. I'm at peace. But just because I'm at peace, it doesn't mean that I don't think of her every day. In the beginning, man, it was a downward spiral after that. Let me tell you, we're not gonna get into detail, but losing my daughter, here she is again. I don't know if you guys saw. And this one's so funny. No, you can see. That was me and her, because I'm not a professional YouTuber, so I don't know how to like put all this stuff up there yet. We'll get there. That's my father. It's the father of my baby, and that's me. So I wanted to shed light on SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, because it's not very much talked about, and I know that so many people go through things that I went through, losing a child, and it's the worst thing ever. That pain never leaves you. It's with you until you go. No matter how much I've made peace with it, no matter how much healing that I've done from it, it is always there. But yeah, not knowing, and then like people are so, and I lived in a small town, so you can, I mean, when I say like town, or like 500 people population in here in Texas, the Houston area, like the greater, like I'm just gonna say, because Houston's about 20 minutes, like 15 minutes from where I am, so I'm gonna say greater Houston area. It's the hardest thing ever. Like you never get over it. And you always wonder, like, I wonder what she would have looked like. Oops.